What's up, Dave Moss Jr. here, and we're on the Rooftop Wellness Center, and today we're gonna be looking at the Desert Plunge Cold Plunge, and we're gonna be using this as our vessel of learning to talk about ozone, which in the cold plunging community, it's probably one of the most misunderstood topics that we don't know much about, but we like to use it in our cold plunges. So in this video, we're gonna talk all things ozone. Is it safe? How do we use it? Let's get to learning. First thing we're gonna talk about is the Desert Plunge, and look at the water. This is something that happens a lot, is I will show off getting in this, and a lot of people will comment, how do you keep the water so crystal clear? Well, one, I don't use any chemicals. The only thing I use is ozone. And this right here in the corner is the optional ozone that you can get with the Desert Plunge. You see this little bubbler? It kind of looks like a fish aquarium bubbler. That's actually pretty much what it is. When it's in there and there's no bubbles coming out, the ozone is not on. If you get into this and your bubbler is on, well, first thing you want to do is get out. You don't want to be in your cold plunge while ozone is running, and we'll get into that here later on in the video. But you want to have it set up to where your ozone is running at night when nobody's actually going to be using it, and you only want it to run for between 30 minutes and 2 hours. So to answer the commonly asked questions, let's just talk all things ozone. Because when I first started cold plunging, I had no idea why anybody would use ozone in water. I'm from the automotive world. We used to use ozone in smelly cars to get rid of the dog smell and the cigarette smell. So it's a really powerful and potent disinfectant and deodorizer. That's actually the #1 reason people would use ozone anyway, is for its disinfection properties. Ozone is a powerful oxidizing agent, and it's very effective at killing bacteria, viruses, and other pathogens in water. So by using ozone in your cold plunge, it's gonna effectively kill off anything that could potentially grow in your cold plunge, making it a little bit safer and definitely a lot cleaner for the users. The second reason you might consider using ozone is for the odor removal. Ozone can effectively eliminate bad odors by breaking down the organic compounds and any pollutants that might be in the air or the water. This can obviously equate to a much more enjoyable cold plunging experience, hence why I have multiple videos on keeping your cold plunge clean. The third reason why you might want to use ozone in your cold plunge is to improve the water clarity. Ozone can really improve the overall water quality and the clarity by reducing down the contaminants and any impurities that might be in that water. This is also another reason why I highly encourage you to use a hose filter anytime you're filling up your cold plunge for the first time or adding water. This obviously will result in much cleaner and clearer water, which is definitely more pleasant and more enjoyable when you're getting into a cold plunge. Now, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, and that's a really short list of some of the major benefits and reasons why people use ozone in their cold plunges. But now let's talk about how to effectively use it. So one of the things I really love about the Desert Plunge is it's a very easy cold plunge to maintain. It's also a very easy cold plunge for you to set up. It doesn't take any DIY skills. You literally just connect a few hoses. And I'm gonna have a video at the end of this video where I show off exactly how to set up a Desert Plunge if this is a cold plunge you decide you wanna get. I'll also have a link and a discount code down in the description below that you're more than welcome to use if you decide you want to get a Desert Plunge. But now let's talk about some of the reasons why I absolutely love the Desert Plunge, and the #1 reason why you're watching this video is because it comes with the optional ozone already built in. It's not something you have to worry about or fool around with or know anything about. It's already on, and all you have to do is set your time on your timer and when you want your ozone to kick on. Now, it's never recommended to use ozone while you're gonna be cold plunging, or even use it during the day if you plan on using your cold plunge anytime afterwards. I highly recommend if you're going to use ozone or set ozone up in your cold plunge, make sure it only operates in the wee hours of the night. I have mine running at midnight because I know I'm not gonna be cold plunging at midnight, and I typically don't do my first cold plunge until the next morning, typically between 6 and 8 a.m. Plenty of time for the ozone to do what it's doing inside the water, and plenty of time for any of the ozone that could be harmful for me to go away. So we've talked about ozone, we've talked about when we should operate and run ozone. What about how long do we need ozone to run for? I have mine set at 2 hours, but typically you only need it to run 30 minutes to 2 hours. This cold plunge I use on a daily basis, and as you can see, the water is crystal clear. It's also exposed to the elements. That's another question that people typically ask me, is how does the chiller do when it's exposed to the elements? I live here in Florida. It rains here all the time. It sits up here on my top deck and gets baked by the sun. And I will say the Active Aqua chiller is one of my favorite chillers to recommend. I'm not affiliated with Active Aqua at all. It just happens to be a bulletproof system that I've used and thousands of other people have used that I know of with zero issues. Which raises the next question, how does the Active Aqua chiller work with ozone? Well, I've been using ozone in my cold plunges for over a year now, and I've never had an issue with my chiller. I can't say it's gonna be perfect, but I can say it's been perfect for me. Now let's talk about a few of the cautions. So I'm not a doctor or scientist. I know I mentioned that in most of my videos because most of the things I share with you are my research and my experiments on myself. I will say this, I have cold plunged while Ozone has been running and I'm still alive, though I don't recommend it. It does have a weird smell. When Ozone is running, you can typically smell it. Sometimes it smells like a very clean hospital room, and practically every Ozone generator I've ever looked at has a very big disclaimer that says, do not be around this while it's running and do not inhale ozone. So definitely do not be around it and do not inhale it. The best thing I can tell you to do is to run your Ozone in the middle of the night or when you know nobody's going to be using your cold plunge, and make sure you open your lid and allow any of that Ozone to off gas with the lid being open about 10 to 30 seconds before you get into your water. And if you're in beautiful fresh air like this, it's going to take a lot less time. If you happen to have this set up inside a garage that's closed or inside of a gym that's closed off and it's small walls, you may want to lift your lid up and let it off gas for 10 to 15 minutes and walk away while that's happening before you get into your cold plunge. If you've been subscribed to my channel for any period of time, you've probably seen the video where I talk about this Ozone machine. Now, this is the original Ozone machine that I purchased and I've been using for well over a year now in all of my cold plunges, unless it's already equipped with Ozone. And how I use this is very similar to what I said about the desert plunge. I like to use it when I know nobody is going to be getting into the cold plunge. Most of the time I'll leave the lids up or off when I'm using this Ozone generator. Now, I do have a link in the description below to my cleaning kit, so you can have access to this Ozone generator if you don't have a desert plunge. But if you are purchasing a cold plunge and you'd like to have one with Ozone, it's one of those things that I don't like to include on my DIY because there are some risks, so I try to stay away from that. I do recommend, if you don't have a desert plunge, get yourself an Ozone generator and run it once a month or once a week in your cold plunge, because it will help keep your water clean and it can cut back on the need for using any of those chemicals that a lot of cold plunge companies sell. And that's one of the reasons I really like to use Ozone. I only use hydrogen peroxide. Every once in a while I'll use water stabilizer, and I like to use Ozone. That keeps my water crystal clear in every one of my cold plunges. I highly recommend using just those three things because they work well for me and you don't have to use chemicals. A lot of times when you use chemicals, you can overdose or underdose your water, and it can make your water cloudy, and it can frustrate you because you're doing the right thing. You're putting chemicals that are supposed to keep your water clean, but now your water's foggy and you have to drain it and start all over again. So if you have the choice, just use hydrogen peroxide, maybe use a little bit of that water stabilizer, and get yourself a good Ozone generator made for water, or get the desert plunge that already has Ozone built in as an option. I hope this video answered your questions on Ozone and if it's something you should use in your cold plunge or not. Remember, there is some health risks, so make sure that you use caution anytime you're dealing with Ozone, and make sure you have your timer set for the middle of the night when you know nobody's going to be using your cold plunge. Allow the Ozone gas to dissipate before you use your cold plunge, and as always, safety first. If it doesn't smell right and it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. This has been a fun video to make. I hope this helped you out in your journey. If you want to get yourself a desert plunge with the Ozone, I'll have a link down in the description below. I definitely recommend them. This has been a great cold plunge for me. If you have any questions I did not answer or you need a little bit more clarity on, pop them down in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer those. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon, and like this video because it just feels really cool when you do that. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Have a great day, my friends, and God bless. Oh yeah, before you go, if you haven't seen my full review of the desert plunge, that video is going to be right here. I highly encourage you to check that out. I go over exactly how to set up the desert plunge, all the specifics and details that you're going to want. This is one of the more affordable cold plunges on the market. It comes with everything you need to get cold and keep your water clean, so I highly recommend it, and that video is right here.